10,000 years ago, before any city rose from the earth, humans were learning to bend nature to their will. The world was still wild then, covered in forests so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground beneath ancient canopy. Not just hunters anymore, but something new. People who stayed in one place and made the earth give them life. What if you could stand beside them in that dawn of agriculture, watching the first seeds fall into turned soil? They did not know they were beginning a revolution that would reshape every corner of the planet forever and always. But before the grain, before the planted fields that would feed empires, there was something simpler and more primal still. There were roots hidden in the darkness below, waiting to be discovered by hands that had learned patience through millennia. The forest floor was their first garden, and digging was their first act of faith in tomorrow's survival and abundance. These early farmers moved through landscapes we can barely imagine now, where megafauna still wandered and ice had only recently retreated. They carried digging sticks made from hardened wood, tools their grandparents' had refined across countless generations of trial and error. The stick was simple, a shaft of oak or ash, fire-hardened at the tip, worn smooth by 10,000 grasps. With this humble tool, they would unlock calories buried deep in soil that hunting alone could never provide consistently. Enough. The roots they sought were wild yams, tubers, bulbs, ancient starches that had fed their ancestors since the Ice Age began. These were not the cultivated crops we know today, but wild plants that required knowledge passed down like sacred scripture through oral tradition. A woman kneels by a riverbank where the soil is soft and dark, reading signs invisible to untrained modern eyes completely. She knows this plant by its leaves, by the angle of its stem, by the way morning dew clings to certain patterns. Her children watch as she drives the digging stick deep, leveraging it with practiced skill born from years of patient apprenticeship and observation. The stick goes down a foot, then two, following the root's path through layers of clay and ancient organic matter below. This is not farming as we understand it yet, but something older, the careful harvesting of wild abundance with minimal waste. Each root she extracts is a victory against hunger, a bridge between the age of pure hunting and the age of agriculture. The work is hard, repetitive, and requires intimate knowledge of seasons, soils, and the secret lives of plants invisible above ground. Other members of her band spread across the valley, each selecting their own patches where experience tells them roots will be largest. They work in silence mostly, saving breath for the labor, listening to the forest around them for signs of danger or opportunity. A child finds a massive tuber, thick as his forearm, and calls out in excitement that echoes through the ancient trees above. The group gathers to see, and the elder woman nods approval. This root will feed them all tonight when fire releases its hidden sweetness. But the hunter in the distance has found nothing today, and his empty hands remind them why they have learned this new way. Game is growing scarcer as the world warms and forests replace the open grasslands, where great herds once thundered across continents. The megafauna are vanishing, the mammoths and giant sloths fading into memory and eventually into stone. As climate shifts relentlessly forward, those who cannot adapt to this changing world will starve. But these people have found a different path towards survival and abundance. They have learned to read the earth itself, to find food where others see only dirt and tangled undergrowth blocking their way. The digging stick becomes an extension of human will, a tool that lets them extract calories from landscapes others would abandon entirely. By midday, they have gathered enough roots to fill several woven baskets, each one representing hours of knowledge and patient physical labor. The roots are dirty, gnarled, unpromising to look at, but they know what fire will do to transform these humble tubers completely. Back at camp, the women build a pit and line it with hot stones that have been heating in coals since dawns. First light, the roots go in, covered with damp leaves and then earth, creating an underground oven that will cook slowly through the afternoon. While they wait, the men repair tools, The children play at digging with small sticks, learning the motions they will need someday soon. An old man tells stories of his grandfather's time, when the ice still covered mountains and hunting was easier than it is now. He speaks of a world that is fading, where humans followed herds across vast distances and never stayed in one place long. But those days are ending, he says, and the young must learn new ways if they are to survive what is coming next. The roots, when unearthed at sunset, are soft and sweet, their starches converted to sugars by the slow, patient heat of stone and earth. They eat with their hands, the food still almost too hot to touch, steam rising in the cooling evening air around the fire. This meal represents something profound, calories extracted not by chasing animals, but by understanding plants and soil and patient cultivation of knowledge. It is a small step, this digging for roots, but it is the first step on a path that will lead to cities. Have you ever wondered what it took for humans to stop wandering and start building permanent homes in one chosen place? It began here, with dirty hands and digging sticks, with the slow realization that the earth could be made to give consistently. Over generations, they would learn which roots grew best, which could be encouraged to grow larger, with simple interventions and careful attention. They would begin to save the best tubers for replanting, though they did not yet understand what they were doing fully or completely. They would clear small patches of forest, creating gardens that blurred the line between wild harvesting and true deliberate agricultural cultivation. The digging stick would evolve into more sophisticated tools, hoes, plows, implements that could break earth more efficiently than simple pointed wood. But in this moment, 10,000 years ago, they are still in between worlds. Neither pure hunter-gatherers nor settled farmers entirely. They are the bridge generation, the ones who will pass down knowledge that their descendants will build entire civilizations upon. Without knowing, the woman who found the first root today has no concept of the future. She is helping to create with her calloused, skilled hands. She does not know that her great-great-grandchildren will plant wheat in rows and build permanent houses of mud and stone nearby. She only knows that her children are fed tonight, and that tomorrow she will dig again in the same patient, methodical way. What if she could see forward through time to the cities that will rise from this simple act of digging for sustenance? Would she recognize her own labor in the foundations of civilization? Or would it seem like magic beyond all comprehension and understanding? Not just survival, but the beginning of surplus. The dangerous, revolutionary idea that you could have more than you need right now. Surplus means some people can stop digging and start making pottery, weaving cloth, thinking about stars and gods and meaning beyond hunger. Surplus means hierarchy, specialization, trade, and eventually writing to track who owns what and who owes whom across seasons and years. But surplus also means vulnerability, crops that can fail, stores that can be raided, dependence on land that cannot be abandoned easily. The hunter-gatherer could move when resources failed, but the farmer must stay and hope, must trust in seeds and soil and rain. This is the bargain they are making without knowing it, trading the freedom of movement for the security of predicted abundance and stability. The digging stick is the first signature on that ancient contract between humans and the earth that still binds us today completely. As darkness falls, the group sits around the fire, bellies full, speaking in a language no living person will ever hear again. They plan tomorrow's foraging route, discussing which valleys have been depleted and which still hold untapped roots, waiting below the surface patiently. Someone suggests returning to a place they visited last season, where the tubers were particularly large and numerous in rich dark soil. This is the beginning of territory, of knowing a landscape so intimately that you can predict its generosity season after season reliably. And territory, once established, must be defended against others who might want to dig in your valleys and take your carefully remembered roots. Conflict will grow from this, as surely as crops will grow from intentional planting in the generations yet to come after them. But tonight there is peace, and the fire burns low, And the forest around them holds secrets they are only beginning to unlock slowly. In the morning, they will dig again, and the day after that, and the day after that, until digging becomes as natural as breathing. Their hands will grow harder. Their backs will learn the particular ache of this labor. Their eyes will sharpen to see what others miss. They are becoming something new under the sun, people who shape the earth rather than simply taking what they find upon it. The roots they dig today are wild, but in a few generations, their descendants will be planting and tending and harvesting deliberately and systematically. They will select the largest tubers to replant, though they will not understand genetics or heredity or the slow, patient work of domestication. They will only know that some plants give more than others, and that the earth responds to attention and care over time. This is how agriculture begins, not with a sudden insight, but with 10,000 small observations accumulated across countless generations of patient work. The digging stick is the tool that bridges the gap between taking and making, between wild and domestic, between wandering and settling down. Today, archaeologists find these ancient digging sticks preserved in peat bogs. They would turn dark, but their purpose still perfectly clear. They find them in layers of earth dated to this exact moment in human history, when everything was about to change forever and always. They find them alongside the bones of wild animals that would soon be domesticated, and the seeds of plants that would soon be crops. They find them in the camps of people who were making a choice, perhaps without even knowing it was a choice at all. The choice was this: to stay, to dig, to learn the earth, to give up the hunter's freedom for the farmer's hopeful gamble. It was a choice that would lead to everything that came after: villages, cities, kingdoms, empires, civilizations rising and falling like seasons. It was a choice that would lead to writing and mathematics and philosophy and art, and all the achievements we consider uniquely human. But it was also a choice that would lead to war and slavery and inequality, and environmental destruction on scales previously unimaginable. All of this from a digging stick and the patient work of extracting roots from soil in a forgotten valley 10 millennia ago. Can you imagine a moment more consequential in human history, or one that seemed more ordinary to the people living through it then? They were just trying to eat, to feed their children, to survive another winter in a world that was changing faster than they realized. They could not know they were the hinge on which all of human history would turn toward agriculture and civilization and modernity. The woman with the digging stick is nameless now. Her bones long since returned to the earth she once worked so patiently and skillfully. But her legacy is every city, every farm, every garden, every planted field that feeds the billions of humans alive on earth today. Before cities rose in stone and metal, before empires conquered continents, before writing recorded the names of kings and their great deeds, there was this. There was a digging stick and a root, and hands that learned to read the earth like a book written in soil and seasons. There was the moment when humans stopped following food and started making it appear where they wanted it to grow and thrive. That moment changed everything, though it happened so slowly that no single generation could see the transformation they were living through completely. It took 1,000 years, 10,000 years, for the digging stick to become the plow that would carve the face of continents. But it began here, in this valley, with these people, digging for roots in the dawn of a world we would eventually inherit from them. The earth still remembers their labor, recorded in pollen and seeds and tools buried in layers that patient scientists carefully excavate and study today. And somewhere deep below the cities we have built, the roots of wild plants still grow, waiting as they have always waited, patient and silent in the darkness beneath our feet, connecting us to those first farmers who learned to dig and hope and stay and build a future from the soil itself.